Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Three Nations Dementia Working Group webinar. Today's theme explores how Christmas can affect people with dementia and their carers. The holiday season can bring both joy and challenges for individuals with dementia. The changes in routine, increased social interactions, and sensory overload can sometimes lead to confusion, stress, or feelings of isolation. We have a great panel to help us discuss this morning, and they will introduce themselves to you shortly. Your participation is not just encouraged, but it's vital. Your comments, responses, and questions make this webinar a dynamic and enriching experience. Please submit your queries using the text boxes at the bottom of your screen, because if you put your hand up, we won't be able to see you. It is essential that you do this and not raise your hand. We will monitor the text boxes for any questions and address them as we proceed. Please take note that our webinars are created, produced, and presented by individuals living with dementia. While we cannot handle individual queries, we are here to support you. We will try to guide via the text boxes on where you can get help, ensuring that you feel secure and confident on your journey with dementia. Well, that's enough from me, and it's my great pleasure to take the screen down, please. My great pleasure to introduce Keith, who will be chairing the rest of this session. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Nigel, and thank you for that introduction to start with today. And welcome everybody to this Christmas December webinar being conducted by the Three Nations Dementia Working Group. And what we hope the next hour will show is how people with dementia do try to cope with what Christmas presents to them, but also try and enjoy what Christmas can also bring. To get that balance is not always easy. And this morning, we're hoping that we can achieve something of a balance in that. And it falls to me to begin the webinar. And what I'll do is between each speaker, I'm going to bring in a little bit of creativity, I hope. And first of all, I'm going to reflect upon this time of year, which I guess would term as being Advent, the coming of Christmas. So the first thing I'm going to present this morning is a poem. And this is part of what I did last year on Facebook, where each day I wrote a poem or presented a poem on Facebook, which worked like an Advent calendar as it opened up leading up to Christmas Eve. So the first poem I'm going to share this morning is called Advent. Feeling creative this Christmas time, glittering cards written and posted, chestnuts bought, still to be roasted, thinking of Christmas to come. As we enter the Advent season, this is my sole, sincere reason to share a poem each day with you all. Some are old, some are new, some are good, some less so. Some are obscure, but some you know. Some are duds, some may be greatest hits. So friends, as you and your curtains, open your curtains or chocolate concealed window, perhaps take a moment to read each day's poem. Some might even radiate a glow. And that reminds me of a story. Those of you who know me know that I worked for 33 years in primary schools. And one of the highlights of the primary school year was Christmas. And part of that was around children sending cards to teachers, nativity plays, and some of those things I'm going to touch on this morning. But to begin with, I'm going to tell you a story about a Christmas card I received when I was a deputy head of a school. And it was from a child called Kirsty. And this child was aged 10. And she wrote on her Christmas card, "Dear Mr. Oliver, happy Christmas to the best teacher ever. You teached me good." Well, that was one of my success stories, that one. So here we go. I'm going to now hand over to my friend Pete.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm full of festive cheer. I'm not very good at poetry, though. So I've got a little limerick for you now. And I'm going to talk about dementia-friendly gifts. So just to get you in the mood, why not give a gift full of cheer for memories foggy, unclear? A blanket so snug or a photo-filled mug? brings comfort and smiles near and dear. So what do you give a person living with dementia? Well, we're all different and at different stages of our journey, but broadly speaking, I think there are three main types of gift. Please, you're welcome to disagree in the chat box. But these are the broad topics that I group them into. The first one is practical and functional gifts. The second topic is gifts for relaxation and enjoyment. And the third of the topics that I've identified is interactive and cognitively stimulating gifts, and gifts with a personal connection. So some gifts might meet the criteria of more than one of the headings that I've identified. But let's delve into my sack of Christmas goodie suggestions and see what we can pick out. And I'll start with the practical and functional gifts. Now, a very popular gift and something that I personally like is an easy to read clock. They display the time, the date, whether it's morning or afternoon, and they can be very useful. I've got clocks everywhere. They all say different times, but they're quite comforting to have. And another useful thing is a voice recorder. I don't know if you can see this, but I've got one here. It's a little box that records 60 seconds of anything that I want to remind myself of. So if I need to jot down a car registration number or a telephone number or an address, I can never find my pen or my notepad, but I've got this always to hand, and I can just jot it down verbally. And when I have the time, I can play it back and note it down properly. And I find that very useful. They're very inexpensive. You can pick one up for £10, but they're one of the most useful things I've got. It's got a magnet on the back, so it'll attach to my fridge. It's even got a little whiteboard type thing on it, so you know, with a Sharpie, I can actually write things down as well if I want to, or even put a photograph in there. Useful piece of kit. And another good gift would be a tracker. Trackers are very inexpensive now. You can pick one up once again for between £10 and £20. They'll go on a key ring. You can get flat ones that you can put in a purse or a wallet. You can attach them to clothing, and they'll work anywhere in the world. They will geolocate a person or an object anywhere in the world, and with pinpoint accuracy within the home. Now, anybody who's living with someone with dementia, or like me is living with dementia themselves, will know that you can never find anything. You can never find your keys. You can never find your mobile phone. You can never find your wallet. Well, a geo-tracker will help you to do that. And many of them link up with your iPhone or your Google phone and integrate into those home apps. So they'll work with those. They're very useful. And for carers, it's very comforting to know that your loved one is trackable. And we've got night lights, simple little thing, but night lights make all the difference. You can get motion activated ones or soft glowing ones, and they help with your orientation at night time. You know, many of us don't sleep that well. And when we do, sometimes we're not sure whether we're asleep or awake, especially when we're stumbling out to the bathroom or something. So if our way is lit, that saves a lot of possible accidents. And little things like that help to keep people independent for longer. And that independence is very important to us. Also, you can get comfortable and adaptive utensils for the kitchen and for things around the house. Somebody who's deep into dementia may have trouble holding a normal fork or a spoon, but you can get adapted ones that make it easier to use. And once again, give you that independence. And even a different coloured plate can make a real difference in the way food is presented. And then, of course, there are lap desks, the little things that you can put on your lap so that you can use your tablet or your laptop actually from your lap. They're comfortable and safe, and once again, very inexpensive. I'd like to move on a little bit now to gifts for relaxation and enjoyment, something we all enjoy. I would recommend for people who are deeper into dementia, stuffed animals or weighted, plushies and that sort of thing, for comfort and companionship. People like something to cuddle. And indoor plants. Indoor plants give you something beautiful to look at, but also they give you a bit of responsibility too, because they take a little bit of looking after. And I think that's good for us all. Scented hand creams and lotions are lovely. Just something that smells nice and makes you feel good about yourself. There's some DVDs maybe of old movies or TV shows. Of course, there's an overlap there with some of the other things like memory aids and personalized gift, because these things bring the past back to the present for us. And I think that's always good. Comfortable clothing. Now, those sorts of things are not always seen as Christmas gifts, but there's nothing nicer than something that you can relax in that's comfortable. Cardigans, good slippers that are easy to do up with Velcro fastenings, and easy to wear, to take on and put off. Or aromatherapy diffusers, calming essential oils, and like lavender or chamomile are just lovely. And then, of course, there are things to do, engaging activities, jigsaw puzzles, always good. Maybe simpler puzzles for those further into dementia with vibrant and familiar images. And some of those provide the opportunity for interaction, because they'll have pictures of an old time sweet shop on them, perhaps. And you can start conversations about that, or a 1950s or 60s street view or something like that, and there's nothing like sharing reminiscence and conversation with somebody. And these sorts of things stimulate it. And it's the same thing with colouring books. You can get easy to grip coloured pencils and markers for those people who are deep into dementia. And there's some great apps for your smartphone and tablet too, which are sort of painting by numbers apps with beautiful, beautiful pictures on. And not only that, you can't colour in over the edges like I tend to do. Activity blankets, fidget mats, once again, very popular. They can include zippers, buttons, textures, tactile engagement, nothing like it. And of course, music CDs and playlists. Ask someone if you can create a playlist for them. I have a playlist on Spotify and I love it. I listen to it again and again and it transports me back. Also, simple board games or card games are great for interaction. Don't leave a person on their own. When you're playing cards with someone or playing a board game with someone, you're talking. And there are wonderful board games. One is actually called Nostalgia. What a fantastic board game. I play it, and I used to play it with my mum too. And some of the great conversations that have come out of that, there's nothing like it. Word searches, crossword puzzle books, keeping sharp, but you've got to pitch them right. Don't make them too easy and not too difficult that they're daunting. So, you need to find that happy medium, find what works. It's good for the soul to keep active. You can get dementia-friendly tablets now. There's one called a GrandPad, but there are many, many others that you can limit the interface to suit the person. So you can have nice big buttons with simple things on there, favorite apps, maybe a FaceTime app so that you can video someone. There are even nostalgia quiz apps out there. Some really good ones. If anybody wants to know, I'll put some links up on the YouTube page later. And personalized gifts are good too, along with memory aids like digital photo frames. They can be preloaded with rotating slideshows of familiar pictures, and they're a lovely thing. Large font calendars with family birthdays, appointments, and special dates highlighted are good too. And memory boxes. Make a memory box A box filled with familiar items, photos and keepsakes from the past. It's just a wonderful thing. Or handwrite a letter, or make a storybook or a scrapbook, something personal. A personal touch with shared memories and heartfelt messages, something that the person will look at again and again. Plan a visit, maybe, or an outing to somewhere that the person really, really likes. It might be something from their past or something that, you know, of an interest to them. If someone likes gardening, how wonderful to take them out to a country house and visit the gardens there. And just to give them that IOU on Christmas morning is something to look forward to later in, you know, on the next year. It's a wonderful thing. And of course, that means you're going to spend time together with the person too. And that's important. So there are so many other things, you know, and so many better ones. And I know you must think of lots. So please put some of your thoughts in the chat and let me know. And perhaps we can make Santa's shopping list a list that we can share. Anyway, meanwhile, have a peaceful, dementia-friendly Christmas and count your blessings.
Immense thanks for that, Pete. That was great. Thank you. And there's some really super ideas in there. And thanks, Steve, for your question in the chat box, which I know Nigel will pick up later when we do the questions. And just have a peep at that, Pete, maybe as we go along, and you can prepare an answer for that later.
Yeah, I'll pop a link in the chat.
Thank you. But I'm also I'll be checking with you personally about the key tracker, because I'm always losing them. And whilst I lose the mobile phone, I can always ring that and find it, but the keys are a problem. So
yeah, nowadays they're USB rechargeable and the battery lasts about a year. So once you've got that charged up, you can more or less forget about it. And as long as you're within range of a Bluetooth, any Bluetooth on anybody's phone anywhere in the world, the network will pick you up and relay it to back to your phone or whoever's phone is on the tracker.
Well, thank you for that. And when we get gifts, it's always important to thank the person who gives us the gift. So you've given us a gift this morning, Pete. So thanks for that. And linked to that, the next poem I'm going to read to you is called Dear Santa. And maybe it fits in nicely with what Pete was just telling us. Dear Santa, I cannot believe it's a year ago I took to writing to you before. Whilst I'm sure in Lapland you're busy, reading lists, packing sacks and more. Again, if you can manage to visit, a scrummy mince pie here awaits you, and of course a carrot each for your reindeer to munch away and chew. By the way, please can I ask you not to let them nibble our tree? We've left room on our drive for your sleigh, next to the car from number 33. Now to close, Santa, can I please ask you to ignore what Auntie may have sent you? At 68, she really should know I've outgrown a size 5 shoe. So, dear Santa, maybe some of the things Pete added to your Christmas list can be shared with a family or friend. So thank you for that again, Pete. Now going to hand over to my other friend, Eamon, who's going to tell us something about how Christmas can affect people with dementia, including himself, but also many others. Over to you, Eamon.
Thank you very much indeed. Peter is some person to follow. Unbelievable. Well, mine is fairly short. Christmas for people with dementia. The main problem is the change of routine, which people like me find difficult. We like our lives in an orderly fashion, and we do things in an orderly idea. Going, for example, shopping, I find the background noise confusing. I find the amount of people confusing. So I tend to avoid it and order my stuff in. I don't like groups at Christmas. Most years now I go to my brother and his wife, so there's only 3 of us. That way I'm put more at ease than being on my own at Christmas or having too many people there and being stressed. Dementia does cause problems with people because of the amount of stress when they get involved to a Christmas party or a New Year's party. It makes life very difficult for them, and therefore it upsets them, and it doesn't help at all. Really, there's not a lot more I can say about it, really. It's only short and sweet, but think of the people that have been diagnosed. Think that they need routine, they need peace and quiet, and not quite a quiet room, but somewhere to go when they need to get away from the hubble and the bubble. It's just one of those things. We can't deal with it anymore. And it's a case of you have to think of us first.
Yeah, thank you, Eamon. And we can all share those experiences that you talked about there, and we'll recognise that, and how Christmas is a great time for many people, but not for everyone. And it does present challenges as well as lots of fun opportunities as well. Nigel, did you want to come in there and just say a few words about to sort of amplify what Eamon's just said?
Well, I can find my mute button. Thank you, Keith. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult time for everybody concerned, because I put a little poem in which I picked up. I don't know who wrote it, but I put it in the chat, and it kind of sums everything up about Christmas and how it impacts people living with dementia. The planning of the holiday period is most important. I mean, those that know the person best are the person that really knows what sort of activities put on for people, whether they like their own company, or whether they like a quiet time. I saw a very interesting video on Facebook from America, which showed they had Thanksgiving, not Christmas, but it was showing people with dementia were included in Thanksgiving, and we all look forward to huge Christmas dinners, don't we? With massive, great things. So the first time in a year, we probably eat things like sprouts and chestnuts and what have you. But for some people, that in itself can be overwhelming. You know, the size of the meals, the frequency of the meals. I'm feeling left out when everybody else is toasting with wine and what have you. That it's never thought, oh, we give the person with dementia a glass of water. Go the little bit of extra mile and give him some non-alcoholic wine or some non-alcoholic beverage. And of course, remember at all times to give people a chance, because to lessen the cognitive load, really. You know, Keith, you know as well as I do that confusion and distress is just on a brink most of the time when our normal patterns of the day are disturbed. You know, we live in the moment, and that moment needs to be planned.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. Thank you for that. I notice in the audience we've got Glynis, who I know is currently probably it's probably about 11 o'clock at night in Australia. So good day, Glynis, and it's lovely to have you in our audience today. And we know that Christmas in Australia is very different from Christmas in the UK. Today at 11:30, I've got the lights on, as you may see. It's not a halo, it is a light. And we you know, we're sort of in semi-darkness in the UK, whereas the light is certainly shining where you are in Australia, I hope. And having lived in Australia for a while, I know that Christmas Day in Australia is very different from Christmas Day in the UK. But what our family do is we've retained an Australian tradition we embarked upon when we lived there, which is to spend Christmas Day on the beach. So no matter what the weather presents us in the UK, we always go to the beach on Christmas Day with a bottle of Prosecco and various nibbles and foods to take on the beach, which is rather nice. Going back to primary school experiences, and as I said, I worked in primary schools for 33 years, and during that time saw many nativity plays. and they were wonderful. The children always performed brilliantly, and parents and visitors to the school really enjoyed those performances. I'm going to tell you the story about one now in particular that sticks in my mind. And what we used to do was the infant children would do a nativity, a traditional nativity set around the birth of Jesus. But the older children would do something rather more creative, shall we say, and rather more musical. So each year we would do a musical. So one year with Sound of Music, and the year we did Wizard of Oz. And one particular year, the older children did Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. And one of Joseph's brothers in the cast was the grandson of the Archbishop of Canterbury, who at the time was George Carey. So just a normal state primary school. It wasn't a private school. It was a state primary school on the outskirts of Canterbury. And on this particular afternoon matinee, shall we say, George and his wife came in his Archbishop gear and sat with me as the head on the front row. And the children performed their wonderful performance of Joseph. And it got to the scene, those of you know the story of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. There is one character in it who is rather promiscuous, shall we say, which was Potiphar's wife. And Potiphar's wife was played by an 11-year-old going on 16. And she came into the hall, flounced in looking fabulous and certainly looking older than 11, and plonked herself on the Archbishop of Canterbury's lap and embarked upon seducing him before going on stage to perform the song that she was going to do as part of the show. And the Archbishop turned to his wife and said, "I just knew that was coming," and took it in very good heart and good spirit. So that's a little story, I guess, from a nativity play that surprised many people, but not him. So going back to the theme of Christmas as well and poetry, the next poem I'm going to share with you is brings in the theme of the nativity. And so often with the commercialization of Christmas, it's so easy to lose sight of what Christmas really is fundamentally about for many people, not for everyone, but for many people. And I just want to bring into this webinar now a poem that perhaps reminds us of that. And it's called Time Travelers. 3 men came traveling from afar. What drew them onwards was a bright, shiny star. Laden with gifts, on camels they came to see the baby Jesus and herald his name. Were they tired? Were they weary? No one will ever know. Were they scared? Were they driven? Setting an example for others to show. Still today, many seek a star to follow, a way to make sense, to fill the hollow, looking outward, upward, inward, to find that elusive light, to brighten even the darkest night. Time travelers. Looking for hope, looking for companionship, looking for connection, looking to combat loneliness. That really leads me to introduce my friend Chris this morning, who's going to speak about this. Over to you, Chris.
There's somebody knocking on my front door. Can you just talk for another minute, Keith, while I answer it, please?
Keith, you're on mute.
Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, please do use the chat box, and I can see a number of people have done so. And we will factor in about a quarter of an hour at the end where Nigel will be able to respond to those with the aid of the panel. So please do that while we're bringing Chris back from the front door.
Well, while Chris is away, can I just say that for carers, you know, for a practical guide for Christmas, you need to plan ahead. Keep it simple. Limit your guest list. Create a clear schedule. Communicate with your guests. Let them know there's someone with dementia there. You know, decorate thoughtfully. Avoid excessive blinking lights and skip overly realistic decorations. Use something familiar. That would be good. And maybe you need to adapt your traditions too. Maintaining traditions is important, but you try and simplify your gift giving a little bit, and lower your background noise. Okay, have a simple menu or even a buffet. If you're making 10 courses for Christmas dinner, it's all very clever, but it's a bit confusing for people like me. I just want something traditional. So and make sure there's as Eamon said, a calming, quiet place. There are many things that carers can do, I think, to give themselves a better Christmas, because you carers are very important.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Welcome back, Chris. Over to you.
I'm so sorry about that. It was the postman, and he was just hammering on the front door, so I had to go. I'm going to talk about loneliness and people living with dementia, and hopefully some ways of combating that loneliness. And how can we deal with loneliness for the person living with dementia who lives alone? It's normal to feel lonely sometimes. However, if you don't have people around you or find it hard to stay in touch, you may start to feel lonely more often. Loneliness can make you feel less like doing things, which can leave you feeling more isolated. If you spend a lot of time on your own and don't have much contact with others, or don't have ways of occupying your time, you might become depressed. This is more than just feeling sad from time to time. Depression is when feelings of sadness and hopelessness take over your life. It's a serious condition that can have a big effect on your life, but there are things that you can do to manage this, and there is support available. If you're feeling lonely or depressed, some of these things may help. Stay active. Try to do things even if you don't feel like it. Feeling lonely or depressed can make you less motivated and less likely to do things, which can make you more lonely and depressed. Try to do something you enjoy, such as a hobby or seeing friends, even if it's just for a little while. Try doing something new. Go to a new group, or maybe visit a museum or a park, or go for a walk in the countryside. Or in my case, I live by the sea, so I go for a walk along the beach. And I love sunrises, and I often, as Pete said, those of us living with dementia often don't sleep very well. So I'm often up and out and taking photographs of the sunrise. And I was up and out taking photographs of the sunrise this morning. However, it was so cloudy, I couldn't see any sunrise. So try and do something. And sometimes when I'm down on that beach, the only other thing I see are foxes. There's loads of foxes around here, and they come on the beach. And one day I saw two foxes that had dug a nest in the pebbles, and they were curled up together until they suddenly heard me and they scarpered off. Exercise can help if you're feeling depressed or lonely. It can be difficult when you're feeling low, but even going for a walk or doing some gardening can help. Try to talk to others about your feelings. And talking about your feelings is often the first step in dealing with them. It can help to talk to other people, such as friends or family. Try telling them how you're feeling. If people know that you're not feeling good, they may keep in touch or visit more regularly. Some people living with dementia choose to live alone, and you may feel happier and more in control in your own home, where you can keep your routines and stay in your community. And I can remember dear Wendy Mitchell used to say she loved living alone, and she always knew where to find things because there was nobody else there to mess them up and put things away and move them to a different place. Try to keep your routines. Keeping your independence may also be important to you. Some people live alone because of their circumstances. You might find yourself alone after a partner has died, or someone you lived with has moved out. You may not have a partner, family or friends, you can move in with. Everyone's situation will be different. Staying well and healthy will help you when you're living on your own. This includes both physical and mental health. Keeping active, seeing people and staying in touch can all help with your well-being and prevent you from feeling isolated. Having people around you to support you can be helpful. They may offer help with practical things you find difficult, look out for your well-being, or just be there to talk with you and spend time with you. And thanks to Pete, I've now got a really long present list for Santa, so I got lots to add to it. But I was thinking as well about the stages before that. I find it really difficult, the planning and preparation stage now, and how to know what to get for people. And 9 times out of 10, I'll give gift vouchers or I'll give money to my nieces and nephews, and because I don't know what to buy them. And sometimes that can be because of their age, but now I find that my brain doesn't seem to want to process that sort of information, and just ideas of what to get people. And it takes the fun out of it when people tell you what you want and you go and buy it, because then they know what they're opening on Christmas Day. And great tips about the gifts from Peter. And one thing that I do sometimes if I'm in a situation where I feel uncomfortable, and it can be anywhere. I could be traveling on a tube in London. I could just be sat in a room with friends, and suddenly something will come over me and I need to get out of that situation. And I find I've got some games on my mobile phone, and I'll just sit there, especially on a tube or a train or a bus, and I'll play with these games on my phone because it's a distraction. I enjoy playing these games, and it's a distraction. I can distract myself from all the people around me, from the noise around me, and I can just enjoy myself playing this little game. And what else can we plan in advance? We can't plan on how we're going to feel in any given situation around Christmas, whether that's with friends or with family. And this year, I'm going back to Wales to spend Christmas with my sister. And I love my sister dearly. She's 13 years younger than me, and we're poles apart. I know people say I can talk a lot, but my sister doesn't shut up. And sometimes it really does my head in. And I was with her once and she was talking about this, then talking about that, then talking about something else. And I said something and she said, "Chris, that was the first conversation. Get a grip." Wasn't a very nice thing to say to me because I was still concentrating on the first thing that she was talking about. I hadn't even heard topic 2 and topic 3. So just bear in mind when you're talking to people living with dementia, don't jump about. Make sure that they've taken in the first thing that you've spoken about and understand it before moving on to something else. And don't say things like, "Oh, come on, that was 2 conversations ago, get a grip." You know, and I think you can often tell if people are agitated. You can certainly tell when I'm agitated because I start tapping my foot or whatever. And I can remember being told a story about a gentleman who had dementia and he didn't sleep. And every morning he'd get up at 4 o'clock. And then the penny dropped one day and his wife said to him, "Every morning you get up at 4 o'clock. Why is that?" And he said, "Well, when I was a farmer, I got up at 4 o'clock to collect the eggs." So what she did was she bought some pretend eggs and she planted them around the house. So every morning when he got up at 4 o'clock, he'd go and find the eggs because he, that was his sense of purpose. He had something to do, and collecting the eggs was what he wanted to do. And I can remember somebody else who was in a care home, and it came to meal times, and a colleague of mine was sat there after giving a talk, and this gentleman didn't eat or drink. And my colleague said, "Well, you haven't had anything to eat or drink." And he said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because I don't have any money to pay for it." And all they gave him was a wallet with some coins in and a few bits of paper. And he started to eat and he started to drink. When you think of it, all our lives we have to carry money around with us. So if somebody has dementia, why can't they have a wallet? Why can't a lady have a handbag that she can put her bits and pieces in? It's things like that that are really important and things that people feel familiar with. Did you say something? No. So yes, it's just thinking back to basics really, and thinking about what would I like, or what would my mum have liked if she was in that situation. And I think very often, for me, if I'm feeling agitated or if I'm feeling distressed, if somebody just comes up and just holds my hand or gives me a hug, that may be all I need. So try and look at somebody's body language. You may not be a tactile person. I used to go and hug everybody until once or twice I was told, oh, hang on, stand back. So I do ask permission now before I go and give hugs. And it's a good thing to be able to do that and just stand back and watch. And don't be afraid of silences. I think very often we feel we have to keep talking if there's a silence. You have to fill that gap. But it might be that person living with dementia is just thinking through what's just been said, or thinking through what's just been talked about, or maybe processing what to say next. So silences are not all bad. And I had a quick look on Facebook this morning, and Jennifer Butte, a lady living with dementia who was a GP, she put something on there, and I'm sure she won't mind me reading it out to you. And she said, people living with dementia still have an opportunity to remain at peace in spite of changed routines. And she said, try and remember the happy times together and use the words constantly. And they're reassure, reconsider, and rephrase. So if you could just remember those 3 words. And I'm going to finish up with a funny story from a teacher friend of mine. And she taught junior school children. And one year they were doing a nativity play. And the boy who was chosen to play Joseph kept being naughty. So she said to him, if you carry on being naughty, you won't play Joseph, you'll play the innkeeper. So he did carry on being naughty, and she thought, well, I've said it, so I must act on this. So she said, okay, you can't be Joseph, you're now playing the innkeeper. So he didn't really complain about it. And it was the afternoon of the nativity play, and all the parents came in and everybody was sat there. And Mary and Joseph came and knocked on the door of the inn and said, do you have any room? And this little boy got his own back. He said, yes, Stacks, come on in. When he was supposed to say there was no room at the inn. So he got his own back on that teacher by, stirring up the words at the end. But try and laugh and try and think of happy times and happy things. And I have found my mum died when she was 60, and Christmas has never been the same to me since my mum died. I didn't have dementia then, but my mum made a huge thing about Christmas. We had to be there 8 o'clock in the morning for bacon butties. And then we'd open some presents. Then the men would go to the pub. My mum would have a few Bacardis and Cokes while she was preparing lunch. And by the time they came back, she was quite tiddly. And then we'd all sit down together as a family. And if you don't have family, just try and think of those happy times, not necessarily with family. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that people from the LGBTQ plus community may not have their birth parents around that they call family. They may have been disowned by their families, and they'll have family of choice, and they'll have people that they know that they can trust. So don't automatically jump to, next of kin. because in some situations, the next of kin may not bring happy memories to a person. But just try and smile and be kind, because it costs nothing, but means an awful lot to people living with dementia. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that really important message that you're sharing with us all. And companionship is probably the best gift that people can give at Christmas time or any time of the year. It doesn't just have to be at Christmas. And seeing Pete's Christmas tree behind him there with his baubles dangling behind his head leads me into the next poem I'm going to share with you before handing over to my friend Nigel to take your questions and your comments. And this one was prompted really by decorating the Christmas tree, and probably many of us wouldn't bother if it wasn't for family coming to visit or other people encouraging us, because it is quite an effort and quite a challenge to put decorations up and decorate things like Christmas trees. But when it's done, it often does bring joy and reward. So this poem's called Glitter Ball. Spinning, shining, spangly, reflecting my thoughts at this time, strictly shifting, swirling, moving from shadow to light, segmented sections separate, yet a whole line, the world turning on its axis, day to night, winter to spring, bringing hope for a new year of peace. Peace to all, young and old, searching, sharing, shaping a future full of hope. And one last thing before handing over to Nigel is something I forgot to mention earlier when Pete was doing his excellent piece about Christmas gifts. One company that's worth checking out is a company called Relish. That's Relish. And they were, and still maybe are, partners with the Alzheimer's Society. And they produce lots and lots of products which are really, really focused upon meeting the needs of people with dementia and make fabulous gifts. So there's no commission in it for me, but hopefully there'll be some usefulness in it for people who do consider buying something from them. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening this morning. And now I'm going to hand over to Nigel to take any questions and comments.
Thank you, Keith. And what a brilliant 3/4 of an hour it's been. I'm going to probably spoil it all for the next 10 minutes, but I'll try not to. It just shows how remarkable experiences of people with lived experience are. And it just shows how hungry people are to hear those experiences. Brilliant sharing, Keith. Brilliant participation by all the panelists. Thank you so much. I know for some people it's not easy, and you have to make special time to be here and deliver your contributions, and we're all so grateful for that. This will go onto YouTube, hopefully before Christmas. So tell all your friends that if you go on the YouTube channel, I'll ask Claire to put the link into the chat box so that you all know the links, and we'll go from there. I've got Steve Kennedy has asked, Peter, have you heard of the GrandPad? Or I have never heard of the GrandPad. Do you have any details about it, please?
Yes, I put a link to the GrandPad site in the chat early on.
Oh, yes, I can see that. Yeah.
It's there are other things there, but you can have a button for music where you can have curated music things on there. If you look at the interface, it's wonderful. But the thing that I think makes GrandPad stand out from other things is you don't need an internet connection. Now, if the person with dementia is living on their own, they might not want or need an internet connection. So GrandPad comes with a SIM card built in, and the cost of the SIM card for unlimited use is part of the monthly fee, which isn't that expensive. But what it means is wherever you go, you can take your GrandPad with you. So it can become, if you've got maybe an AI chatbot or something, or a companion there, it becomes a friend that you can take with you wherever you go. for me, gadgets like this have remarkable possibilities. Now, they're quite expensive, but you know, if the family comes together, what a wonderful present to give somebody.
Okay, Pete, there's also a comment here from you. If there's some spare time, can I give a short practical guide to preparing for Christmas for carers? Have you?
Yeah, I sort of did it while we were waiting for
There we are.
Chris
Okay.
to get all of her Christmas cards from the postie. Was he still wearing short trousers, Christine? I tell you what, they're wonderful, aren't they? I don't know how they do it. It must be part of the training. But yeah, but basically was just think. I'm trying to, you know, Christmas is a hard time for carers, you know, and we've got to think about carers because without them we'd be lost. And so we want to make it easy for carers to make it easy and safe for us. You know, and there are little things that a carer can do to avoid the nightmare of something going wrong at Christmas. You know, don't have real candles, for goodness sake. Get candles with batteries in, because otherwise you're on a hide into nothing if I knock a candle over. You know, make sure my drinks are not too hot. You know, you know, little things like that make all the difference and make your Christmas go with the buzz. And also, me and my missus we'll stand in the kitchen and we'll prepare all the vegetables and what have you the day before. So we'll make Christmas Day as hassle-free as possible by planning ahead. Now, we have busy lives, so that's not always possible. But where it is possible, I think you ought to do it as a team. Because working as a team, as we all know from our experience at work, when it works well, there's nothing like it. It's just a real buzz. So, you know, do it. And you know, carers, practice some self-care over Christmas. You know, ask for help if you need it. Don't hesitate. The holiday period can be tough. Take some breaks and step away when you have the time. You know, ask other members of your family or your friend circle, if they can, to step in a little bit and set yourself some realistic expectations. Don't try and do too much. I better shut up now, but it's important.
That's the important advice there, Pete. And sometimes people overlook the influence the carers have and the roles and the responsibilities they carry during these holiday periods. Chris.
Yeah, some things just come to mind I thought might be good to share is that I've been in some situations when once I was on a canal boat holiday and we went into a pub and it was quiet and I don't know what it was, but I had to get out of there. And a friend of mine who used to be a mental health nurse suggested that I have a safe word. And those that are nearest and dearest to me know what my safe word is. I'm not going to tell you because you'll all be saying it to me. But and now it saves any embarrassment when if I'm in a public place or a busy place or even Christmas and you're there with family. If I just say my safe word, the person who knows it and who's with me knows I need to get out of that situation. And so rather than causing a fuss and say, I'm not coping, I've got to get out of here, just arrange a safe word between the person living with dementia and the caregiver or those that are nearest and dearest. So it doesn't cause a fuss. You just say your safe word and the person will know that you need to get out of that situation. It's just a good tip and it works for me.
Chris, that's brilliant because my safe word is just get up and go. So, you know, I mean, to have that, I mean, is excellent. But also, I find I use more and more that my toleration to noise goes. I've got a pair of noise cancelling headphones. And if I'm in a busy train or something, I just pop them on, switch them on, and all I can hear is myself breathing. I can't hear anything else. And it's absolutely, if I'm on long train journeys, it's so important because those train carriages are quite noisy. A very interesting post from
I think that if you just get up and go, then people will come looking for me. So
well,
if I use my safe word.
that don't happen to me. People are glad to see the back of me. So, so there's an interesting post here from Glenys, and she says, particularly for the last few years, John and I have requested that adults in our family not give gifts, but to focus on quality time with us and connecting with family not only at Christmas, but for both of us as we both age. I guess it's all about making new memories, isn't it? And it's all about the greatest gift you can give is compassion, love, and understanding. And I'm briefly going to close to talk about maybe faith and dementia, how important for some people faith becomes in their lives. And at this particular time, it's not always midnight mass in some of the big metropolitan churches. And I attend a metropolitan church. It's probably not the best place to be, because loads of people turn up slightly the worse for wear. They once a year visit a church and along they come. But I mean constant in your lives. Faith is so important. And sometimes it's the last thing people think of as the essentials to that person's well-being. And really, people should be encouraged to express their faith, even if they've got none at all. They should be encouraged to express it to whatever faith suits them. And it should be acknowledged by the people that maybe Christmas for some people isn't the big end all and be all it is to others. The one thing that I've learned from this webinar, is that people are overflowing with compassion and understanding of each other's needs and the needs of the people in general. If you look at some of the stuff in the chat, it's all positive. People enjoy the holiday periods, but I think they need to be planned. I don't think they can just happen. And I'm going to finish with, it's not from Christmas Carol, but it should be. And it says, Christmas is the jolliest time of the year if you enjoy being lonely and happy, hungry, destitute, or on the streets. But never forget that kindness and happiness depend on each other, not on the words Christmas. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Have yourselves a wonderful holiday time. And we'll be back in January. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.